Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. This video serves as two purposes. I got my mittens on. I was just walking my dog. I'm recording this on the DJI Osmo Action. I'm using the Rode Wireless Go setup because I'm trying to set this up and test it to see if it looks any good for any future vlogs I do where I'm doing like landscape photography, or if I'm taking you guys on a photo walk. I want to use this camera because it's stabilized, it's weatherproof, it's tiny, it's wide lens, it's easy to shoot on. I'm shooting in 4K 24. So this is one of the purposes of this video, but the other purpose is to introduce you to my new to me, but old to everybody else, pocket camera. If you clicked on the title, you know what this is already. But if you guys recall, I had the Ricoh GR3 for my trip down to Florida. And outside of some people commenting down below about how irresponsible that was to drive in a car by yourself, isolated in a hotel that we were isolated in, besides that, that trip was fantastic. And in part because I wasn't lugging around a big camera. Now, I did bring my S5 with me, but it stayed behind most days. What came with me was the GR3. And after that trip, I swore, I'm like, that was perfect. That's the way vacations are supposed to be. The camera is there to document, it gets out of the way. And that camera for that type of atmosphere for me was perfect because I got kids, I got things I'm moving around. I don't have time for a big camera in my strap when something like that. If it's just the wife and I can bring the big camera, but for those types of trips, quick snapshots are perfect. The snap focus, all that, I loved it. But then it immediately got back and I sold it. Which doesn't make any sense, right? Well, it does for me because I buy and sell gear all the time. But the reason is because I didn't want to spend $950 on that type of camera. And since then, I've been looking for a cheaper replacement camera because I thought to myself, that's the essence, but it doesn't have to be that camera, okay? And so just recently I found, or my buddy Ryan from Detroit, he actually helped me find on KEH the Ricoh GR1, or the first APS-C digital sensor one that they have. And I'll talk about that, but here's the camera right here. It's with me all the time. It's in my pocket now. I take it with me everywhere. I go on a date with my wife last night. I have it. I'm documenting Detroit a little bit. I go with my kids. I have it with me all the time. It's absolutely perfect. This one I found for $300 on KEH with less than 1,000 clicks on it. It's in mint condition. And this is the way to go because I put $600 something back in my pocket, and the camera is awesome. But let's talk about the differences and the trade-offs between the GR3 and the GR1 besides the price, because it's really, really important to understand when you're making this switch. And we'll talk about some competitors real quick. So first, let's talk about what's better about the older GRs than the GR3. And we'll start, first of all, with this guy right here. You see in the back, you see this as it's focusing here? That rocker panel right there. That rocker panel, I noticed immediately. I had the GR2 at one point. I had a default one or defective one. But immediately I remember on the GR3 that didn't have that rocker. And the reason why it's important to me, because ergonomically it rests right where my thumb will land. I shoot in TV AV priority, which is like where you can control shutter and you control aperture, but the camera does ISO by itself. I love that because I'll focus, I'll put the aperture and the shutter speed where I think it's appropriate for what I'm trying to do. And then I grab that rocker toggle and I go up and down on exposure. And that pushes the ISO up or ISO down. I like that. That's the way to shoot for me. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I missed that big time on the GR3 when I had it. The second thing is, well, let me pop this out. This guy right here has a flash. Not a big deal, right? Well, I started shooting flash a bit more, and it is a big deal. It is a really big deal because you can get that unique kind of look. And I don't really bolt a flash on every time, especially for a pocket camera. That's the second thing that I missed a lot, and I wanted to go back to the GR1 or GR2. Third thing is, you look right here. You see the continuous autofocus button? There's a button right, you guys can see it right here. It lands right where your thumb is. And you can do back button autofocus or remap it to something else, I believe. I don't use it for that, obviously. And it's just better. Ergonomically, overall, I think the GR1, GR2 were better than the GR3, period. Now, this is a pro and a con at the same time. It's up for discussion. The other thing is the positive film simulation. I noticed in the GR3, the colors were different, and some would say more realistic, and that's better. If you shoot raw, you don't care. But the positive film simulation, which has a unique look that I like, is definitely different in the GR1. I think even the GR2 than it was in the GR3. It's got more pop to it, more vibrance, more of a film look, if you will. And I like that. I shoot in positive film when I use the Ricoh cameras. It's awesome, okay? So those are my positives. I'll go to the cons. I'll make a couple caveats. Cons, it doesn't have IBIS. The caveat is Image stabilization was never a big deal for me on these cameras at 28 millimeters. Well, I never really got in a situation where motion blur was a big problem. Con, it's worse in low light autofocus than the GR3 was. I think this uses contrast. The GR3 used phase detect. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's the case. And so it's worse. But the GR3 is not like stellar anyways. So yeah, I guess you have to learn to manually focus or use snap focus if you know what your distances are. Another con, the lens is technically less sharp. But I'll say what the caveat here is I think there's a je ne sais quoi, a vibe to the lens in the GR1, the GR2 over the GR3. Again, it could be sensor. That takes me to the sensor, 16 megapixels versus 24. And so you don't really have a lot of room to crop on the older cameras versus the new ones. And if you go into the digital teleconverter mode, you're really cutting into your megapixel count. And so those are technically cons. But again, there's something about the lens and sensor output that I think is better on the GR1 and GR2. It's just, for me, it's a personal touch, I think is a little bit better. Also high ISO noise. The GR3 I think is better there as well. So those are some of the cons. Now there's probably something else. I don't shoot video on this. I don't know, but that's really in my mind the only cons that technically matter. I think the GR3 has better battery life, maybe. Don't quote me on that, could be wrong on that. But nonetheless, for me it was very, very simple to find one of these in really good condition with the pros that it has over what I liked in the GR3 or what the GR3 has, and save $600 was a no-brainer. And I think it's absolutely essential for somebody that has kids or just wants to document their life or enjoy street photography to have this type of a camera. Now, of course, competitors, Fuji XF10, long story short, decent camera. It doesn't hold a candle, in my opinion, ergonomically and functionally to the GR system, even though it still does a pretty good job. There are other cameras out there. You can go with like an RX100 or whatever that has like a zoom lens. But for me, when you hit the button, it just, boom, you're ready to rock. That's way better than the RX100 or whatever I had in the past. So for me, there really is no true competitor to this camera in terms of its size, its output, and its ergonomics. And so for me, having a GR is essential in my life. It just wasn't the GR3 because of the price and some of the trade-offs. And what I got in return on the GR3, for me, wasn't better. To have sharper and a better sensor for what I do with this camera wasn't critical. Now, the other big camera, yeah, that stuff's important for sure. But anyways, guys, two things. First of all, how's the Osmo Action 4K footage look? How's my audio? I got the mic right here, so I'm testing this whole thing out. And then also, what do you guys think? Is it worth saving $600 to get a like new GR1 or whatever is it called GR1? The GR APS-C digital versus $900 something. I guess you can get them used for $7 something. The GR3. Oh, one more big con, and this is an actual con that I don't like. The GR1 doesn't have Wi-Fi. So I have to wait till I get home to put an SD card reader into my phone or my iPad or my computer and then bring the files off. Some would say it slows you down. It's better. I guess that's trying to turn a con into a positive. The GR2 does have Wi-Fi, so keep that in mind. But the GR2s are going for like $500, $600. So you're paying almost double than that. So I guess with that, good idea, bad idea, this GR1. What do you guys think? You like it? You don't like it? Does anybody have it? Is anybody like this? That camera's sweet. Or are you guys like, man, you're an idiot. That's a bad decision. And anyways, appreciate you guys watching this. Comment section below. I have one more gear review coming up for you guys in the next couple of days, and they're going to see a lot more of like me going out to shoot and taking photos and sharing that with you guys. So see you on the next one. Thank you. Have a great weekend. The Super Bowl is on probably by the time you watch this. I got the Bucks. TB12. Let's do this. See you guys.